Meanwhile, members of the EIS were planning to strike at the University of the West of Scotland today, but have since been put on hold after talks with the university. Well, let's speak to Katie Clark, who's the branch secretary at the University of the West of Scotland and a member of the EIS. Morning to you, Katie.
Good morning.
Let's just start with what is happening at the University of the West of Scotland. Are you optimistic that this could be settled?
Yes, I'm quite optimistic. It's very welcome news from the university that they're withdrawing the threat of compulsory redundancy. So once that's formalised, we can hopefully move from pausing our strikes to cancelling them.
But I presume that you still have to have further talks about potential cost cutting.
Our understanding at the moment is that the threat of compulsory redundancy is off the table, and that's what we were asking for. So once we've got that, the sort of details of that and what that means for members going forward, then we should be able to come to a formal agreement and resolution.
And when we look at this UK-wide strike ballot, several unions balloting their members here, does that tell us something, this coordinated action, tell us something about the strength of feeling amongst staff? Yes,
I think so. The national pay dispute is off the back of an offer of a 1.4% uplift, which is another year of a below inflationary pay rise. So with the cost of living continuing to increase and times getting harder, members are not willing to settle for that.
Do you also have to take into account, though, the situation, the financial situation that many in the higher education sector find themselves in?
I mean, I think that's a valid concern. However, I don't think the financial situation, and I can't speak for every university, obviously I'm embedded within one, I don't think the financial situation of all the universities is as dire as they make out.
Well, we've seen it in practice in some universities, like Dundee, for instance.
Well, that's one university, but other universities have reserves. And one of the other issues that I think we need to look at, or the government certainly needs to look at, is governance and spending within universities. There's huge income inequality that can't be justifiable.
Is this in terms of salaries, do you mean?
I think in terms of salaries, yes, and I think in terms of managerial structures, which continues to increase. And
what about funding structures more generally? Because, of course, there is a reliance on overseas students who are paying fees. Dundee University say that's been part of the problem that they've faced, a downturn in those numbers. Is the model that we have at the moment in terms of the funding that universities receive from the government, the fact that there are no tuition fees for Scottish students, this reliance on overseas students, is that funding model sustainable?
I think it's something the government really need to look at, yes. I mean, free tuition fees for Scottish students is something that as a nation we should be very proud of and look to maintain. But the funding that comes through from government to support universities in doing that certainly needs a review.
And as regards this UK-wide strike ballot, you say that the feelings are high or strong amongst members of staff. Do you expect that the unions will get approval for strike action, and what would strike action look like next year?
So firstly, yes, I think that we would get the mandate. Unfortunately, what we're seeing is some of our lecturers who are experts in their own respective fields going back into industry because the pay and working conditions are better there, and that's a real problem for the education sector in a wider note. But if we were to get the mandate, strikes would look to begin probably mid-January next year.
And what effect is that going to have on students?
Well, unfortunately, it means that it would be disruption to their education, which no lecturer does lightly. It's a real moral dilemma when we go out, but there also has to be a line where we say enough is enough. When ultimately lecturers' working conditions or the students' learning conditions, and if they are feeling the pressure of pay and eroding terms, then we need to stand up and defend that.
Just finally, to pick up on what you were saying there about the terms being better in the private sector. That's always going to be the case, isn't it? I mean, a public sector university could not potentially compete in terms of financial recompense with the private sector, could it?
I don't think it has to compete like for like. I think there just has to be a sustained decent standard of living and decent working conditions. Lecturing is a vocation more than a career. You spend your evenings marking, you work late to support your students, you give up weekends to develop new module materials. So it's something that we're very passionate about. It's not just about the money, but I think it has to be manageable for people and a feasible option for them.
Katie, thanks for speaking to us this morning. Katie Clark is the EIS Branch Secretary at the University of the West of Scotland.